Welcome to Build Out with Jim Kunkel, your go-to broadcast for learning more about business in the real world. Your host, Jim Kunkel, who is an accomplished professional in business development, sales, and marketing, and is a technical content creator along with being a rising influencer on LinkedIn. On Build Out, you'll get the latest information and knowledge from subject matter experts from across the globe. Okay, let's get this Build Out broadcast started. And here's your host, Jim Kunkel.
I'm Jim Kunkel, and welcome to Build Out. Very happy to have my guest today, Sam Navarro, who's the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing from IPC Industries. Sam, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Hey, Sam, for the viewers who might not, which I'd be surprised if people don't know who you are, could you provide a professional background? And you know what, talk a little bit about what IPC does in the industry.
Okay, so my name's Sam Navarro. I've been in the paint industry since I was 19, so about 21 years. IPC Industries has been around since 2006. We are a industrial paint contractor out of the Texas City, Houston Metroplex. We have really put our name out there on the maintenance side of the coatings business, and tanks are really our big business.
Very good, very good. And also, I encourage people to follow Sam on LinkedIn. You've been putting some very amazing and powerful posts out there, and your focus on the next generation, or let's say the next sets of craft workers that are coming into the industrial coatings and linings industry. So Sam does some very awesome posts in that aspect. We're going to have a conversation about how, company culture is built through onboarding. And, Sam, we're friends. I follow you. I know that you have a strong ethic when it comes to very much when it comes to promoting internally, but also when you go externally to find new craft workers and other employees for IPC. You focus really hard on that onboarding aspect of it. When we have talk about truths about company culture and onboarding, how important, in your opinion and your experience, is onboarding when it comes to starting off that company culture with a new hire?
I think it might be the most important piece of it, right? Because there's a reason that these men and women are going out there and looking for a job. So were they laid off, or did they quit their job because of a safety reason, or they couldn't get along with management, or are they just coming into the industry and, quite frankly, they don't know anything about it. They just know that they can make a good living and they really need a job, right? So really dialing in and trying to figure out where that individual is every single time is just the first step of all of it.
And then for your onboarding, again, if there's any trade secrets, please, let me know. But, based on what I've understood related to IPC and also to the history of the company, is that with onboarding, you're creating a community with the new hire. You're involving all your different departments. And then the other thing I've noticed too is that you also involve your suppliers, the manufacturers, and other stakeholders in the industrial coating sector. When it comes to developing community within a new hire, what are some of the recommendations that you would have for, an industrial contracting company or any type of company that's bringing on new hires and then focusing on onboarding?
So I think that to look at it from a really high level, right? So the biggest difference in our organization versus others, I can't speak for others, or rather I won't speak for others,
sure,
who are in the same, boat that we're in, is for us, the individual has to mesh with us, but we have to mesh with the individual too, right? So while there are certain companies out there that are just hiring warm bodies and anybody with a pulse, just throw them out in the gates and let's go. That's just completely opposite of where we are. And I think that's why we've shown a really great growth model over the years, even through COVID. We certainly slowed down a little bit through COVID like everyone else because we are a field contractor, but we've not only ramped up, but we're picking up customers that we've never worked before or worked with before. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't just throw bodies at a project, where we actually go in and put in the time and effort that it takes to not only get to know the person, but to see what their skill sets are and then pushing them for success. Because quite frankly, if it cost me, call it $1,000 to bring in a new employee and he only lasts 2 weeks, so that I'm losing money and I'm wasting his or her time. And that's just something that I don't want to do.
Very good, very good. Some might be watching and saying, "Hey, Jim, why are you doing an infomercial or a commercial for IPC or for Sam Navarro?" And the reason why Sam and IPC are so important for this topic that we're covering this afternoon is that best practices, in my experience, when you see a company and an individual like Sam following best practices, this is something that we have to talk about, and this is why I think having you as a representative of IPC, but also you representing the industrial coatings and linings industry is important for this conversation, especially when it comes to culture, onboarding, and looking to hire the next generation, because throughout your career, you've been focused on all those aspects and more, of course. Now, when it comes to company culture, in the past, companies would dictate what the company culture was. Let's say that would be 20th century think. Now that we're in the 21st century, companies really look to create the community by involving employees and management and ownership when it comes to developing company culture. In your experience, how does that blend work out to develop a very strong culture within a company?
So, I've said it for years that a company culture is the hardest thing to create and then the easiest thing to destroy, right? And people, craftsmen especially, can sniff it out from a mile away. There are plenty of contractors out there that use, the key phrases that we've been taught are the phrases of the industry, rather. But a culture in general, to me, it really makes a difference when everybody's on the same level playing field. When you walk down our shop, or when you walk somewhere and you see someone of a high level management picking up, a piece of trash off the floor, or staying late to wait for a crew to help them out because, they had a rough day, doing something. I just feel like that's something that can't be faked. And kind of going back on what you were saying earlier, this isn't an IPC thing. This isn't a Sam Navarro thing. This isn't any of that. Our industry in general is in a huge, huge, huge crisis with men and women coming into this field that have passion. And the reason that they don't have passion anymore is because they've been traded like pawn pieces in a game for years, and we haven't invested enough into the craftsmen. And so me personally, I've done it now for a while where I'm trying everything I can to recruit more and more young folks and more folks in the industry to get involved and to really start making a push. We need them. I mean, I'm happy now, having some conversations with AMP and all of their new initiatives that they're doing. And I feel like there is a, kind of a changing of the guard where the craftsmen's really starting to be respected more than they used to, because quite frankly, we're running out of them.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing that you do, and you have what you call a signing day. And you promote that on your post. You've done that before. But you had said something to me, it might have been a year or two ago, and it really sticks with me. And you said, the better the company culture, the better the culture, the easier or the better the recruiting. And I think you have had great experience with that when it comes to recruiting, because you have that opportunity to showcase, again, the culture of the company, but show the craft worker or whoever it might be, hey, this is a fun place to come work at. It's a hard place to work at. It's a rewarding place to work at. And then the other thing would be, you're involved with the success. Or if you go the opposite way, obviously, the not success of the company. But I think you've really kind of, promoted that concept. How important is company culture, good company culture, to the recruitment efforts?
It's everything. So, I mean, I took over craft recruiting at IPC at the end of March, so just a few months ago. The industry standard for percentage rate is about 5%. That means for every 100 craftsmen they apply, they actually can bring on 5 to 7 folks. And I've asked several of my friends that do this craft recruiting across the industry. And, here lately, and it's been a lot of effort on everybody here, obviously, but we've been able to take ours to about 22 to 25%. So we're really increasing it. Now, how do we do that? There's a lot of stuff involved on the back end that people don't see. But at the end of the day, it's knowing what you're talking about. I mean, these guys, these men and women are in the field for years working with this equipment and years doing these projects. When you're trying to court them, it, kind of means something if you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And, now that we've covered the onboarding aspect, let's talk about, showcasing your company culture. One thought that comes to mind, and I've seen examples of this. You've also done this as well, where you show success stories, either customer stories, or you have actually highlighted staff members, and you've done this throughout your career, where you've pointed out a certain individual and explained, he's our plant, our plant paint supervisor, or inspector, or whatever. What are some of the ways to kind of showcase either individuals or success stories to the public?
Well, for me, it's always been about putting a face behind the project, right? So at one of my companies that I was working for, I came up with, we make production personal, right? And trying to really highlight the guy that's actually doing the work, because I can go out there and sell as much as I possibly can and do all that. But if we don't have the men and women out there that can actually execute the work that I'm selling, then we are, fighting ourselves. And that's what you find in our industry right now, is there's a lot of people selling work that they cannot execute for sake of trying to get the PO.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way when you do showcase key staff or craft workers, and you're pointing out, this is the person behind the gun. This is a person who makes things happen when it comes to quality control. But it's a great recruitment tool to use that to showcase it, but also too, when you're trying to do business development, that's another way to get customers, because, they see the personalization that goes into the work and understand the craftsmen that are actually performing the work. The other thing too for recruitment, and I'll pay you a compliment on this, you're very much focused also too when it comes to women in the coatings industry. And is there any initiatives that you are doing or are currently looking to do when it comes to recruitment of women in the industry, when it comes to industrial coatings?
It's funny. I tried to get my daughter Ashlyn to get into the business, and she wouldn't do it, right? So she's doing really well for herself.
She's doing well. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, she's doing better than I ever did. So, hats off to her. But, I think a lot of times women just don't feel like they're given the opportunity like men are. And, women can do anything that a guy can do out at the plant, and I think it's just a matter of starting that momentum, right? And really putting that out there that anyone can apply. I assure you that not only do we have quite a bit of ladies that work for us out in the field that can run circles around some guys, right? And it's just a matter of giving them the opportunity, giving them the tools to succeed.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the other thing too, is I think the perception of industrial coatings, again, it's not an industry for everyone. And I always equate with surface preparation, you're literally putting on a spacesuit to be able to perform the work. And, I had the chance in the Philadelphia market to, was a union craft worker, but she mostly did abrasive blasting work. And, she's making very good money. And she was so happy about having that opportunity to work in a field that she never thought that she would be considered to work in, but she was very skillful, able to perform wonderful work, worth her weight in gold. That's the way I kind of look at it. If you get somebody who is very good at their trade, they could make you a lot of money, and they should make a lot of money too. So great industry to get involved if anyone's watching that knows someone or is watching that can. Consider getting into this industrial coatings industry. We need more people across the board. Yeah, it's been wonderful for me too. So the other thing too that I think with showcasing, either posting or talking about out in public, the company culture, it also helps recruitment, and you've already explained that with stuff that you've done as well. So that's something else to consider, is that promoting your company culture out there, the success stories that can help you in your recruitment efforts as well. So let's go ahead and move into the last topic I want to cover with you, which is steps to establishing a positive and impactful company culture. And the first thing I think that is super critically important is that you give your new employee clear, concise, and also attainable goals.
Yep.
For your, again, no trade secrets you have to give out here, but how do you approach goals when you have a new craft worker? Do you have something as step up goals, or do you look at their experience and say they're at this level, they should be able to go right in at an expert level? How do you determine that?
So I'll say it very generally, right? So that we don't give away any of the stuff that we do here. Is you got to find out where a person's at, and then you got to find out where they want to go. Mm-hmm. Some guys just want to blast for a living, and that's all they want to do. And at this point in their lives and careers, you put a blast hood on them, and they will blast forever, right? Other guys who I've interviewed here recently have got no ambition in being a blaster forever. They will when they need to. They know how, but they have bigger ambitions. So it really takes a lot of effort on a corporate side, a lot of commitment and investment of time to highlight those folks that really want to grow in your organization and then give it to them. I go back to, there's no secret, right? I just hired 3 young men straight out of Tech City High School out of their industrial trade program. I'm lucky that my boss, Clay, the owner of IPC, he supported my idea back in October when I came into his office and said, hey, I need to be able to hire 3 guys straight out of high school. These are going to be 18-year-old kids, and they hardly don't know anything about this, business, but they want to work with their hands. And like me, didn't want to necessarily go to college. And so you got to have that support from a very high level to allow someone to create that program for someone. And at every level of our organization on a management side, we discuss where a person's at, where they want to go. And then it's our job, and it's our duty as stewards of the industry to try to get them where they want to go, because if we don't, eventually somebody else will.
Yeah, so true about that. So what you've got really just covered really leads into the second recommendation is, having that involved, you assess exactly the new worker, get them involved in maybe some other departments as well as a career development phase. It might not be right away. It might be timed out, over a year or 2 or 6 months or however you do it. The thing that I found is that, especially let's focus on industrial coatings, to your point, and sometimes people just, I want to do surface prep, or I just want to be a painter, but some want to do more. And the other thing too that's really interesting is the career pathway. Go on for additional training. You could become, you get trained as inspection in the paint shop. So you're a paint inspector inside a paint shop, or you go through the certification route, to become a painting inspector for coatings inspection work. If you're, let's say you're out doing field work and things like that, or maybe you're running a crew, or you're a supervisor, or you get into business development or something, in that aspect of the company. But having that pathway laid out is also very important, because now, and again, you probably have experienced it. A lot of my friends that run contracting operations is that the market in our side when it comes to the craft workers is so tight. You might have a worker that for a few dollars more or a few cents more sometimes jumps from one company to another company. And now you're kind of trading employees back and forth, or craft workers back and forth between companies. But if you can show a career progression, a career pathway, maybe that's a stronger argument not to jump ship and to stay where you're at. What do you think?
It's a double-sided coin, right?
Yeah.
So the whole deal is that men and women are going to do what they have to do to survive.
Good point.
And a lot of these folks do live paycheck to paycheck. And, it's one of those things. We're on a kind of a different side because we are more of a maintenance contractor. So our stuff is, consistent throughout the year, where we don't have these huge peaks and valleys in business like some folks have.
Yeah.
And so our employees, when they come on board, they understand that it's going to be a much more consistent work cycle. we'll ramp up like we are right now during the busy season, and then we'll start to come back down in the winter just because you can't really paint here without, huge containments and all that kind of stuff. But, it's important to remember on the culture side of it is that we as corporate, if you will, we have to set our folks up for success. So we cannot or should not go and sell projects that we can't really execute well, because there's not one man or woman out there that's swinging a hammer or pulling a trigger or laying fireproofing or anything like that wants to go and fail. 99.9% of craftsmen take a lot of pride in what they do. Unfortunately, now, not a lot of folks are giving them the tools and the resources they need and the training they need in order to go and excel in their craft. So the whole culture side of things and the whole business development side of things, you got to make sure that that's in tune with what your workforce is doing.
That's a good point. Good point. Sam, what a great conversation we had on this topic. Before we wrap everything up, is there anything that we didn't talk about related to company culture or the use of onboarding related to either recruitment or company culture development that we didn't cover that you'd want to leave with the viewers?
The biggest advice I could give to craftsmen and to, corporate recruiters or whoever's doing the recruiting is, if you don't think it's a good fit, don't just do it because you need a warm body, or don't just do it because you need a job, right? It's one of those things that you really should do your due diligence and make sure that you're a good fit for that company and that the company is healthy enough to take you on board, or that they have enough work. I've seen a lot of guys, and I've talked to a lot of guys on the phone who, they jump ship for $1 more an hour only to find out that the company that they went to maybe only had one job. Mm-hmm. And so, they go out there, they execute the job, and then they get laid off, and then they're on a big scramble again looking for work. You have to do your due diligence. Don't just go for another 25 cents or another $1 an hour, just to go out there. And I think that could be translated into corporate positions too, right? Is just be sure where you're going can actually sustain what you're doing. Very
good. For people looking to connect with you, obviously LinkedIn, people connect with you on LinkedIn. Are you on any other social media platforms?
I use LinkedIn for most of my professional stuff.
No TikTok yet?
No, you won't be seeing me on that. I leave that to my daughter.
All right, everyone, please make sure you connect with Sam. And Sam, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you today.
Yeah, no problem. It's great seeing you.
All right, have a great day.
All right, take care, Jim.
I hope you found value with today's Build Out broadcast. Make sure you connect with Jim on LinkedIn and subscribe to his YouTube channel. This way you'll be notified on new live streams and when new content is released. Please give today's broadcast a like and share with your connections and colleagues. Thanks for watching, and please visit buildoutproductions.com for additional content and to join the mailing list so you can keep updated on other streams and quality content from the creators on the Build Out Productions team.